Hello and welcome back to Rock Tumbling Weekly. It's another week of seeing what's in my rock tumbling barrels and seeing what kinds of successes or not that I might have had that week. Wow. So those of you who have watched the videos before, you'll know that this means it's raining again. So, yet again, I'm outside washing rocks in my tumblers in the rain, which is better than washing rocks and tumblers outside in the heat of summer. And anybody who's watched the first 8 episodes will know how kind of miserable that was. That was very sweaty and took a lot of work, and I tried to do it very quickly. So I'll take a little bit of cold and rain over that any day. But I'm really excited to look at some of the things that are in the tumblers right now. I have something in polish. I'm really interested in looking at the Labradorite. And I will show you how the onyx turned out in the tumble vibe. So I'm really excited. Remember, if you like my rock tumbling videos and you don't want to miss any of them, then make sure to hit the subscribe button. But now, let's look at what's in my barrels. Here is the Crazy Lace Agate. After, I believe, 4 weeks in course. And last week, I went through all of these and picked out some that were ready for medium grit, and we call that splitting batches because you're splitting them up. And I think I'll have to do the same with this. Look through, see which ones could use some more coarse, see which ones are ready for medium, and separate them. And I may have to move to a slightly smaller barrel to run coarse, but I mean, most of these are looking good. You have some exceptions, like this one here's got some knob on it that I don't think is going to come out with just one more week of course. So this one may just go to the side to go in a future mixed agate batch. But these are looking so pretty. Really nice. And you know, this is the part of the process where, one, we have to be patient because, you know, this has been in course for a month already and we don't want to rush it along before it's time. But we also have to be discriminating, and that's where the batch splitting comes in, so we can actually look through all of them, see which ones are ready to move on, which ones are not, and then make decisions based on that. All right, so let me start picking through these. Here is the Lavic siding Jasper after, I'm pretty sure this is 4 weeks in course as well. Like, this is a super tough stone for sure. It is just really resilient, and you know, since this is a contest stone, these pieces have to really look nice coming out of course, and they're really just not there yet. I mean, this might take another month to get even just some of these pieces contest worthy, but just so many of these pieces are pitted so deeply that, like, look, this one's got a pit that's got some ceramic media stuck in it. Right there. Can I get that out? No, that's stuck in there good. So, you know, that's just an example. Some of these are pitted so bad that, you know, they won't even qualify. But I'll do the best that I can with the batch that I got. See, like that? That will take months in course to get that smoothed down. So we'll see. This will just be a barrel running this stone for months and months and months. Patience. I mean, that's what contests are good for, like testing your your patience and your discernment and your choices. So we'll see how this goes. We'll get it back in course. Okay, here is the Labradorite after 1 week in course. And oh, wow. Autofocus isn't liking my Labradorite. And there's so much rainbow flash in this. It looks so pretty. I just wish it weren't so finicky in the final stages because it's such a gorgeous stone and it's really hard to polish. My autofocus is having some problems today. I'll try to fix that. But since my original recipe in the rotary didn't work, and I think continuing in the rotary might be too much for it, I'm going to move this over to the tumble vibe. Come on, focus. There. I'm going to move this over to the tumble vibe in medium and finish the process through there. I'm also going to use the sugar method to keep it cushioned, and the sugar method is adding a fair amount of sugar to the grit and liquid in the vibe or the rotary so that it creates a really thick fluid in there and it cushions the stone a lot better. That's what I'm going to try. So I'll let you know the results next week. Let's get this in the Raytech. And this is the Sunstone, and I'm showing you something a little bit different. This is an easy way to see if your stones are smooth enough to move on. And this Sunstone has been in fine grit 500 for a week. And you can see here, I haven't even rinsed this, it's just in the slurry, that the slurry just indicates where all of the surface roughness is. And you know, fine seems to show this off a lot better than the slurry from coarse or medium. But, you know, these cannot be moved on to extra fine. And in fact, I don't think that even fine is going to smooth these out. So what I'm going to do is rinse this off and take it back to medium. And put in a lot more ceramic media. You can see there's a lot of room in here for that sunstone to crash around. But yeah, this is a really easy way to see if your rocks are smooth enough. Like you can just see the slurry settling into the grooves here. I'm trying to find a really good piece. Yeah. And yeah, right there. It's just pointing out all the flaws. So this is not smooth enough to go forward. We have to take it back. So I'm going to rinse all this out. I'm going to put it back in medium with a lot more cushion and see if we can get this a lot smoother and ready for polish. This is the calcite after 4 days in fine grit. And the honey calcite is looking nice and smooth. And the red calcite bits, they're fairly small, and they've actually started to chip up a bit. But like this one's really nice and smooth. So I'm going to put these in extra fine for a couple of days before I move them on to polish. But yeah, these deep red pieces are looking really interesting. They have more features and patterns to them than I originally saw. So, all right, let me get these in with their extra fine grit, and we'll see them in a couple of days. Here's the Septarian after 4 days in extra fine grit, and it's feeling really super smooth. Even the calcite bits of it as well. And so it's dry because I've actually let it sit for a day or two because I didn't have time to move it on to its next stage, but I did give it a thorough wash with soap water because there are a lot of crevices in this calcite part that can hide grit. And when you move something onto polish, you absolutely don't want any trace of grit left to potentially contaminate your polish. And this is ready for polish. And usually with calcite, I dry polish it, but since many of these stones have this much harder surface here, I'm going to try to give it a wet polish and see how it takes. So I'll use aluminum oxide, just the regular water polish, and we'll see how that goes. I'll be checking on it each day to make sure that some of this calcite doesn't get too chippy, but let me get that in polish and we'll see how it does. So the calcite batch just finished a couple of days in extra fine grit, and the honey calcite is looking really nice, and that looks like it's going to polish up really well. However, this red calcite, like the dark red pieces are just very chippy, and I'm going to have to pull out probably most of these from the polish batch because I just don't want them to chip apart and ruin the rest of the batch. But, calcite I have found is a little bit more tougher than most think. You still have to check on it frequently, but it's not that it will wear down to nothing because, this honey calcite has been through, 2 batches really, and it's more that it breaks apart really easily. So I'm going to look through all of these and take out any that are questionable at all, wash the rest really good, and get these into polish. And this time, I'm going to try a wet polish with them to see what that does. I've always dry polished calcite, but since I have a lot of batches of calcite that I've finished, I'm going to try this in wet and just see what happens. Okay, here is the yellow Jasper after a week in extra fine, and it is ready for polish. And I'm really excited because Jasper takes a high shine, and it'll look like this dry, this shiny. It's so gorgeous. And these pieces are really nice and smooth, but retaining some of their natural shape. And I'm hoping that I can get the Lavic siding Jasper to get to a similar shape. Like, I wouldn't leave things like this in it, but I think this is part of the natural loveliness of it. But yeah, these are so gorgeous. All right, let me get these washed up. I'm going to put these through a really good wash cycle with soap and water, and to make sure that I get all of the grit residue off the stones and the media before it goes into polish. So let me get that started right now. This is the Unakite after a week in polish, and I really feel like it's been a while since we checked on something in polish. And in fact, with all this foam here, I was a little worried that I just left it in a wash cycle for a week, but I can see down there the white of the polish in here. So let's give this a check and see how this Unakite did this week. I'll just pick one right out of the polish. Dunk it in some clean water, dry it off, and look at that nice polish on it. This particular one has some pits in it, which I left because sometimes those pits have little crystals in it, I have found recently. And so let me take another one. Rinse it off. Give it a dry. And yeah, that shined up really nicely. Wow, this one got really pitted. Anyway, let me just grab one more. Get down in there. And dry it off. Does this tissue paper count as ASMR? Anyway, here is, yeah, really nice polish on that. So I am going to rinse all of this off. I'm going to get it back in the barrel with some soap and borax to give these a nice burnish. I'll let that run for a couple of hours, and then I'll show you pictures of the finished product. All right, so I have the Labradorite in the Raytech Tumble Vibe tumbler barrel here, and I'm going to use the sugar method to cushion the roll of the Labradorite while it works through medium grit. And the instructions say, so 2 teaspoons of medium grit, 4 teaspoons of water. I let these dry, so that's why I'm putting that much water. And then 1 tablespoon of sugar per pound of rocks in the barrel. There's 5 pounds, and so I put in 5 tablespoons. We'll get this running, and I recharge the grit in 12 hours, and in 24 hours, rinse, clean, take a look at them, and then see where they need to go next. This is the Labradorite after 24 hours in medium grit with the sugar mixture. And I've poured it all out and I've let it dry because I really want to take a good look at its surface before moving it on to fine. And, you know, I'm looking for, you know, cracks, crevices, anything that might be amplified when you get to the polish stage, anything that's going to look bad. Now, I'll show you, this is one of the flawed ones from my last batch. You can see it's shiny, but there's so much. Let me try to get this focused. Come on. But yeah, there's just so much on there that does not look right. Like every little flaw is magnified. So that's that. And, you know, I let this dry and the surface is looking good on like most of these. And, you know, it could just be the sugar mixture and using the vibratory tumbler. But yeah, you can see how smooth and there's no big cracks or imperfections in there. I mean, there's some that have a few flecks like that one, but for the most part, these look good. So now that I've let them dry, I've looked at exactly how they look coming out of medium grit. Now I'm going to get these back in the tumble vibe with the sugar mixture and fine grit for another 24 hours. The Labradorite has been in fine grit now for a full 24 hours, and I've taken it out and I've dried it off again to look for surface imperfections. And, you know, there are a few cracks, see, and surface imperfections in this. However, it's much better than, say, this. This was from the failed batch. And those surface imperfections have the potential to just magnify later on, but the majority of these are just looking mostly clear. Ooh, look at the blue on that one. That's nice. You know, just minor imperfections. And this is a stone that you don't want to keep tumbling more to smooth out the surface, because then you tend to aggravate it and the cleavage starts to chip and break even more. So that's why I'm using the vibratory tumbler, because it takes less beating in a shorter period of time, and the sugar mixture really slows down the tumbling action while the vibration of the tumbler allows the grit to do its work. So far that's been working really nicely, and the surface of these look positive. So I'm going to move these on to extra fine for 24 hours and we'll take a look at them again. Here is the Labradorite after 24 hours in extra fine, and I've taken it out. I've washed it really well. I'm drying it just to see what the surface looks like. And, you know, the surface on these isn't flawless. There are some that are better than others, but it's better than this kind of beat up look. This is from the failed batch. But, wow, there's some really nice shine and flash and rainbows on this, in this batch of rough. Oh, just washing it off and seeing all of that. Look at that. It was just gorgeous. I mean, oh, here's a piece that's really nice if I can get the light to hit it right. But, So I'm going to give this a really good wash and get this in polished with the sugar mixture as well. 5 tablespoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons polish. For this, most of this is dry now, so probably about 3 teaspoons of water, and I'll let that run for 24 hours and we'll see how that goes. So wish me luck. Okay, everybody, here is the Obsidian after it's gone through these new cycles in the tumble vibe. It went through 5 days, 1 in medium to get rid of the bruising that I had seen, 1 in fine, extra fine, and 2 in polish. And you can see already how shiny these are, and that I had a much better experience with the vibe than I did in the rotary. Now, these aren't perfect by any means because I can still see some scratches, but the bruising is at a real minimum here. And these are really looking lovely. Really nice and shiny. And that bruising that we saw before is gone. Now, I think lessons learned on this. Here's that piece of gold sheen. So nice. But it's got a lot of those internal inclusions there. Lessons learned. 1, these 2 pieces here were likely too big to be going in my rotary or the vibe because there was really no way that they could avoid hitting other stones. And I don't know if you could see it, but there is still some bruising on these larger pieces. And that's just with a perfectionist eye looking at it. Like, I don't mind things like this little divot here because that's, you know, part of its natural shape. But yeah, it's got some bruising. So does this one, a little bit along the edge. And like I said, they were just too big for such a delicate stone in the size tumblers and the vibe that I had. But where's that other, here's another piece of the gold sheen obsidian. And it has some gold sheen over here too. So I'm really happy with these, but let me see. I think I derailed myself. Lessons learned is don't have huge pieces in my barrels. The second is that I really should have used the sugar mixture method to give these even more cushion in the vibe. And I will be trying that. I'll be trying that with the Labradorite, and I'm actually going to start another batch of Obsidian to see if I can do it better right now while the lessons are fresh. So, lesson 1. the vibratory tumbler, much better on these than the rotary. All right, something I haven't done yet on this channel, and I'm doing it today, is I want to learn from the Obsidian lessons right away. And I want to see if I can do it better this time around. So I'm going to start another batch of Obsidian. But you can see these are really large pieces, and they need to be much smaller, because that was one of the lessons learned, is that I put pieces that were too big in there. So I'm going to take these outside and I'm going to break them down into smaller portions and show you the sizes. I'm not going to show you the actual breaking up, because I am terrified that rogue pieces would hit my camera and damage it. But you could see there are some that I pulled out from the previous batch that looked like they were going to break apart, and I didn't want to risk it, like that one broke apart and wrecked the obsidian last time. So I'm going to try it again right away so I can document a really good process. I had really large pieces and I broke them up, and not everything is going into the barrel, but I just wanted to show you these little tiny slivers that you get when you're breaking up your own rock. And that can be dangerous, so be careful. But I have a nice barrel full of stones here. I have some pieces left over from a previous batch that I thought might break apart, so I'm just going to throw them in with this batch of rough right now. And I can see from these little chips here that we've got some gold sheen obsidian in this batch. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how that turns out and how much shine we get. All right, let me get this in a barrel with coarse. We're starting with a rotary barrel in coarse grit. Today, I'm going to be starting some Sodalite. I've been seeing a lot of other people tumble this lately, and I had a really big batch of rough, and I thought I'd start some. It's a really pretty stone. It's blue and white, but the white is super soft. It tends to undercut, and even the blue part is really soft. It's like 5.5 Mohs, which isn't super soft, but in my previous experience tumbling this, it will lose mass quickly. So this is one that I'm going to have to check every couple of days to make sure I'm not losing a good amount of stone. I will start it off in coarse, as I do even with the softest stones, just to get some of these rough edges off. But I'm not going to add as much coarse, probably about half of the amount that I would normally use. And I'm going to check that every 2 days until I feel it's ready to move on to medium. So it's one of my very favorite stones. It's really gorgeous. This really deep royal blue, and it takes a nice shine, but it needs a lot of care and attention while tumbling. So we are going to, let me get these in the barrels right now. Well, thank you so much for joining me this week. And, we've got a lot of things going on. Obsidian finally worked out pretty good. And I'm looking forward to trying to perfect that method. I'm looking forward to seeing how Labradorite does with the same new method. And I'm a little disappointed that we've had to take Sunstone back, but I'd rather have a really nice finished product than just speed through the process and try to be done. A note about breaking up your rocks. I know a lot of people have asked if I could film that, and I just can't. It's too dangerous for my camera. However, I'll show you what I use. I have safety goggles. Even though I have glasses, that stuff can get inside. Remember that you're creating little sharp projectiles, so wear long sleeves, long pants, protective eyewear. I use this massive hammer. I'm pretty sure that you can get these, and this is one of my chisels. I have several, and you can get these on rocktumbler.com. There are a couple of other websites, but that is the easiest to find. Those are my tools. I also have a really thick piece of board, and I do it outside, in the yard, on top of a tarp, so I can try to catch those pieces that fly. And I don't want people stepping on those in bare feet, especially obsidian. That can be really dangerous. So that is what I use to break apart the rocks. I'll put the link to rocktumbler.com down in the description below. And if you're new to rock tumbling and you're really interested in the fundamentals of how to start tumbling, then remember that I have a Rock Tumbling 101 online course. That link is also in the description below. And if you're a new or experienced rock tumbler and you like watching me tumble a huge variety of rocks and you aren't already subscribed, then make sure to subscribe so that you'll see whenever I post a new tumbling video. Looking forward to seeing you again next week. Bye-bye.